Alright, I want to do a tabletop review of one of these. Now what's in here? It's an RMJ Tactical Tomahawk. I'm going to be fairly analytical when I talk about this, and I'm not going to pull any punches. There's not much that I don't like about this Tomahawk. Enough of my yakking, let's get going. So usually it'll come like this in a box and have some foam. Throw that away. Here is the item in question. Here is the Scabbard Sheath, and there's some stuff that come in here. Let's talk about it quickly and then move on to what everybody wants to look at and deal with the hawk. So it has this rump system for attaching this scabbard slash sheath to your equipment gear. I haven't used it, and I'm going to look into it in the future. I'm excited. We got to get talking about other stuff. There's some swag that comes with this. I'll show it to you. It's not my kind of stuff. Okay. Oops. I'll go get that. All right. I'm back. So it's got an RMJ Tactical Velcro patch. Again, not my thing. Nothing against RMJ. I just don't like to display these things. Another one here. Not sure why you'd put that on your uniform or anything, but maybe there's a branch of people that like to do it. This is an RMJ Tactical, like a glass sticker that would go on, the back of your car. Again, these Tomahawks are fairly high end and they're purpose built, and we're going to talk about that purpose here shortly. I wouldn't personally advertise this on my vehicle. Nothing against RMJ, just why would you want people to know that? Okay. Here are the different little diagrams that come with it here. You can see here how to loop it through. Pretty comprehensive instructions here. This is kind of a funny piece here. Everything's in blood. It's kind of written in blood really because it's red. Yes. When I read this, I said, only an idiot would cut himself on the Tomahawk. Well, you got an idiot giving you this review right now. I did cut myself on the Tomahawk. I got myself here, and I was trying to be pretty careful with it, but until you get used to handling it properly, you're going to probably nick yourself, so be careful. All right, enough of that. Let's talk about the hawk, okay? And what I have is a list. Because there's a lot of information that I want to throw out there. First of all, for those that are looking at this, I have the serial number and the date covered up on this Tomahawk. Just because I like a little bit of anonymity and the origin of the hawk, I don't need broadcast to YouTube. I'm not an unscrupulous person, but I just don't need to do that. A lot of people do that when they're reviewing pistols and stuff. They'll cover up the serial number. So this hawk here, and it's a Tomahawk, but we'll call it Hawk for short, is probably one of the best selling Tomahawks that RMJ makes. Why? Because it's used extensively by the armed forces. RMJ stands for Ryan M. Johnson. Okay? The Hawk is about 15.5 inches long. You can see here. And let's take a look at things proportionately. Here's a Zippo lighter. You can see that the blade isn't much longer than a Zippo lighter, right? Or, better yet, a Starbucks card. Not that I'm advertising for Starbucks. But you can see here, it's not that big. I mean, in my hand, when you look at it on the internet and you see it up against something, real, like a Zippo lighter, we've all seen those, you can see how tiny this hawk is. It's not very big, okay? So I'm going to go through the specs here quickly, and I'm going to show you what this thing's all about. Okay, its weight is about 27 ounces. So, I mean, if you're into hammers and stuff like that, most carpentry people will understand what that is. Well, 27 ounces, metric would be 765 grams, and if you like pounds like me, it's 1.7 pounds, actually 1.68, but I'll say 1.7. Okay, the materials used. Obviously, this is made out of metal, and it goes right back to about here, okay? It is created by hammer forging. Actually, if you want to get specific, it's impression die forging. right? Where they actually go bang and they stamp this out. And I think there's 2 or 3 tomahawks that are stamped out in each process. It's pretty good. It's if you watch some of RMJ's their videos, you'll see these being punched out. It's made out of 4140 alloy steel, okay? And that is forged at between 926 and 1205 degrees Celsius, or in Fahrenheit would be about 1700 to 2200 degrees Fahrenheit. Pretty darn hot. The reason I'm talking about heat right now is I'm going to go to the next topic here, which is differentially heat treated. Where have you heard this before? Well, most people know about it, but we don't understand what it is. This is the treatment that a lot of samurai swords go through. So what's happened is this section of the hawk, the blade, has been treated to be harder, whereas this handle and other different key components on this are actually softer. What's that mean? Well, you're gonna have increased edge retention, and this is gonna be tougher. So you'll probably be able to bend this and break this, like shatter it like glass and bend it around. The durability of this tool, and I'm going to call it a tool, is amazing. They've done a very, very good job. I have a couple of gripes, and we'll leave them at the end because they're minuscule compared to what's really going on with this hawk. Okay? So what that differential heat treatment does is it produces a greater hardness at the edge, and other areas have greater impact resistance. All right. About 4140 steel, okay? 4140 is really neat in that it has high fatigue strength and it has abrasion impact resistance. There are crankshafts that are made out of this. There is crazy torsional strength to this. It's used in structural tubing, bicycle frames. It's really strong, okay? It's also used to contain pressurized gases and make a lot of very high-end firearms parts. So this is expensive, hence the price point on this. It's an expensive tomahawk, but there's a reason why, and it's going into the materials, okay? Now the blade itself is hardened to approximately 56, or a Rockwell hardness of 56. The blade geometry is built for taking abuse, and let's talk about that right now. This is the blade, this is the beard. The blade, if you look at this, is flat ground. That's because it gives it the most strength here, okay? Now, let's flip around and take a look at the beard. The beard, if you look at that, is hollow ground. This means it's not as strong as the flat grind. Why? Well, when you read on the website, Ryan talks about how he sacrificed blade strength for the ability to cut. This will cut through, a car, and I'm not going to do that in this video. So if you're waiting for that, no. Who runs their souped-up sports car into a brick wall so we can test the frickin' airbags? I'm not going to do that. This is a nice tool. I'm not going to whack a frickin' cinder block. It's not going to happen. So let's talk about the beard, okay? The beard is actually for cutting and ripping. You would cut and rip with this on a person, right? Some weak points are obviously the wrists, the arms, the shoulders, supraclavicular fossa, stuff like that you can really get into. Again, we're going to talk about this spike in a bit, but the killing edges on this, according to RMJ, are here and here, not here. This is more utility. Speaking of utility, when I orientate this horizontally to the cutting board that I have here, you can see that the point of the axe here, this blade touches here. It's not situated flat. It's like this. So when I go like that, I'm only getting the last quarter of it. So when this thing touches, you're focusing all that energy on this narrow surface area, which allows it to cut. And you probably can't see it, but I've cut into this board. All right? Oh, okay, enough with the blade geometry. This spike, I want to tell you, when I first looked at this spike, I thought it was kind of silly until I started remembering some of the things that I've learned about blades. First of all, this is a tanto point on here. One of the oldest armor-piercing designs going. You've all seen Cold Steel's tanto knives. Well, get this. They've built one on this Tomahawk except upside down. So that's how the normal, normally we see the Tanto. Primary slashing point and secondary slashing point. Well, here this isn't for slashing as much as it's for penetrating. So when we look at this, take a look down the hawk here. Quite uniform, about 3/8 of an inch thick. Where it changes in thickness is the width here. Now, I thought, geez, this is kind of silly. When this penetrates something, it's going to get, wider and wider and slow down and not penetrate as much. Well, when you look at what this thing's for penetrating, we've all seen it slam through car doors and barrels, which is great, but look here. What, 1/2 inch, 5/8 of an inch? It's the same. And if you look here, it's almost circular here. This is like a very short nail, and this nail will drive right through a skull on a person. That's what this is for. It's penetrating the skull. It's ripping, and it's driving right into the brain, okay? This was patterned off some very, very ancient weapons. Take a look at RMJ's website. They go into more detail. I'll get rolling here. Okay, so the spike, they say at RMJ, which is kind of some marketing, that it's designed to go through a Kevlar helmet. That's fine and dandy, but I've worn a Kevlar helmet for a living for a long time, and I can tell you something, you might piss off the guy below the helmet if you hit him with this. Why? Well, with these helmets, there's about this much space, and that space is not just air. When you go through that helmet, it's foam. So what would you want to do? You'd probably want to make sure that person's helmet was off, or in a sentry removal type situation, strike to the side of the head or the top, obviously, but not with a helmet on it. Yeah, it'll go through a Kevlar helmet. It'll also go through car doors. It goes through a lot of things. But don't think you're going to take somebody out by going through a helmet with this. Probably, I'd have to see. I'm a little bit dubious of that in a sentry removal situation. Okay, now let's get to a really neat part. I mean, yeah, this is the business end, but this business end is no good unless we wield it properly. And this is where the design of this Tomahawk truly smiles. Okay, this is basically, it's a rubber handle. Okay, it's about what's it called? High durameter rubber. That's how they rate O-rings and stuff like that. Now the cool thing about this is, besides it being tapered, if you look here, it starts out skinny and tapers so that when you swing it in your hand, it actually kind of gets tighter in your hand. It's easy to hang on to, and I'm sure if it was wet with water, blood, mud, debris, that you could still hang on to it. Okay? Now, the really neat part is this rubber handle doesn't conduct electricity, and it's rated for about 2,500 volts. Sometimes a lot of people focus on these axes being weapons, but they're not always used as weapons by the military. They're actually used to cut yourself out of thin-skinned aircraft. A lot of aircraft skins are comprised of magnesium. When that aircraft when it starts on fire, you've got seconds to get out of there because magnesium burns quite well. You sometimes have to hack and slash your way out of the aircraft. If you look at some really high-end military knives that have saw teeth on the back, that's not for cutting wood or bone. It's for cutting metal and getting out of the aircraft. Bit of an aside there, but that's that. Now, when I looked at this initially, I thought, wow, this is really neat. It doesn't conduct electricity, but what about this? That's kind of lame, because if my hand's here and I whack into a high voltage cable, I'm going to get electrocuted. No. They've done some great stuff here at RMJ, and they've thought it through quite well. I'm impressed. This, got a little bit of dust in there. This is also 4140 steel. It's got, like a punch on there, which you could use to punch a windshield out, right? Okay, now look at this. It's got a stone in here for sharpening it. Apparently some guys, part of a mountain unit down in the States, requested that these tools be kind of self-contained and that you could have a sharpening stone with them. That's great. But here's the cool part, okay? I mean, this is great, but check this out. This is threaded into the rubber. See that? So what that means is that if you are in a bad situation, you're cutting into some, high voltage lines, this is insulated. So yeah, it's metal. Yes, it would conduct electricity, but it's insulated. And I can't really show you in here, but you can stick your finger in here to a certain point and where you do touch metal. But right now, this threads into rubber. And I noticed nobody really reviewed that in the reviews that I've watched. Now, let's put this back in here. And it kind of slips in here. I want to talk about something that I've had difficulty with here as I wrap this video up, and that is this sheath. This sheath is well made. It's pressed out. If you watch some of the RMJ Tactical videos, there's one gentleman there making them, and I think he's got some band-aids. He needs them. I know I do. This is how it works. You go in like this, you push it in, and this thing snaps in, okay? Needless to say, it's jump rated. Well, get this. Then you clip it in like this. So it's clipped in. When I say jump rated, meaning you could jump out of military aircraft with this. All right, so let's go like this. Now, here's the deal. This is where a lot of people, I think, cut themselves, is they will go like this. That is a big no-no, because if you remember earlier on, I showed you that beard that was designed specifically for cutting flesh. So here's what I've done to get through this. Is I will take my thumbs and I'll right in here and I will push here like that and pull off, because we have to play with these, right? So you go like that, it's in there, it's secure, it's very secure. What I've done is I'll just grab it here by the neck and just take my thumbs and just kind of pry out and push off. And that way it happens under control. And this rocks off and the beard doesn't catch me. Yeah, my fingers are close, but the way I'm doing it, this beard, which is quite sharp, does not get my fingers. No band-aids on my knuckles yet. So that's a quick kind of review of this and this tomahawk. Overall, I'm extremely impressed with this. Here's my gripe. And it's not much of a gripe, okay? It's more my opinion. So be easy on me. I don't like this pressed in stuff where it's been forged, and this here. I mean, I guess you can look at this, the skull and the two cross tomahawks. You can say that's some pretty cool, marketing. I'm not into that personally. It's a Duracoat finish on here. But what I don't like, and the reason I don't like it, is not because it takes away from the quality of it, but this tomahawk, if it's exposed to combat situations, this isn't too bad, but this side, you get a lot of blood and gore that collects on this stuff, right? I mean, it's difficult to clean up. There, that's my only gripe, and it's not much of a gripe. How else was he going to do it? Well, he now, I think, is engraving a lot of his stuff with these insignias and these markings so that they're a lot more shallow. Here, they're quite pronounced, and I think that blood would get caught in here quite a bit. Having butchered animals in the past, sometimes it's a knife or an axe that you can clean up, the easiest that you really, really like. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this quick review of this. I looked at different reviews, and it always featured some guy slamming this beautiful, well-crafted tool/weapon through a frickin' cinder block, which I thought was silly. Thank you, whoever did those videos, for demonstrating that. But if you need to smash a cinder block, take a frickin' carpenter's hammer and doing it. Don't use this. I mean, yes, it'll do it. Great demonstration, but you need to know the specs, especially if you're going to be investing this amount of money in this. Oh, last but not least, lifetime guarantee on this. All right, I'm not trying to sell it. RMJ didn't send this to me. I bought it on my own. I really, really like it. I'm going to use it for, you know, doing the different utility tasks in and around camping and others, you know, other things that you can do with this. What I will do is I'll do some more videos on this, but there's so much information to talk about with this fine tool that I wanted to do it in a couple of different series. So the next stuff, I will actually cut some branches. I'll cut, you know, different things with it and just show you what this little guy can do. All right. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later.